All right, Jamie, welcome to the program. I know your website is what, Plain Truth? Is it plaintruth.com?
No, I've got several websites, and thank you for having me on first.
Absolutely, absolutely.
There's several sites, but Plain Truth is APLANE truth.info. And I have backup site number 2 since I've been shut down 2 times. I've had the site since May 2015, and that followed on a website I have with the same name, and another website, Taboo, TABU blog.com, and that stands for Towards a Better Understanding. And then I have a vaccine website, Apple Victor Victor Ida AVVI.info for vaccine information.
Wow, wow.
Oh, and 2 books. I was told by a psychic
I would write a book, and
3 years later I wrote a book. So I wrote 2 books, one on geoengineering, the geoengineering the skies. I've cut my teeth with Dane Wigington back in 2005 and just been a researcher of geoengineering since then. And the other book is on flat Earth, which is a new hot topic in the trendy conspiracy hat world. So I had one of the first books ever out on that modern subject.
It's definitely a psyop, the flat Earth.
Well, I don't know if it's a psyop. Can you tell me how the pyramids were built?
Well, I can tell you the pyramids were not built by, my opinion, by man. I think this came from extraterrestrials, in my opinion. I don't see men building all that
just
stuff.
So you know, I'm a modern day skeptic. I aligned with the ancient Greeks who said we don't know anything. We got to just discover. And I just found that the ancients who built things we can't understand have a lot, whether they're other dimensions or whatever you want to call it. They had a lot of knowledge about how things in the modern earthly world was used and done. And a lot was done with mental and spiritual capacities that we're just beginning to understand. So I'm in awe of the ancients who had these, 200 tons things they were able to cut like razors. That, the Great Pyramids on 13 acres, and it's only off 1/8 of an inch, perfect north, south, east, and west. And we still can't today figure out how the heck they did it. So I'm humbled and I'm in awe and I want to learn. And they were geocentrics. They thought that all the planetaries that used to be called luminaries circle around us like we see them around the North Star. And that's why the Big Dipper is a clock. When we used to sleep outside, the Big Dipper was a clock around the North Pole. And that's the energy fields, the toroidal fields, that give us the electromagnetic energy that Nikola Tesla told us about 100 years ago, that gave us free energy, which we still don't have today.
No, that they charge you.
It makes a lot of sense when you start to look into the possibility that it's not I don't know the term you use, but I took it very seriously when I started to doubt everything. And I have 25 years of research in Wall Street research, and I did very well at that field. And I tried to take it apart. And ma'am, I'm sorry, it made a lot of sense. But then when I aligned it with 5,000 years of theocosmogony, that the heavens are all circling around us to enlighten us, to our spiritual consciousness to rise, well, that's a pretty dang exciting story to listen to. And if you go to the Chaldeans, the Sumerians, the Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Vikings, the Far East, the Near East, the ancient Vedics, the Toltecs, the Mayans, Cherokees, Iroquois, all had, this was centered around our consciousness rising. I'm not sure there's a topic we need to get into tonight, but it's really if you have an open mind like a parachute, it works best when fully open. Just look into it and decide and use your own judgment and discernment. And if you find that it might be, I put it out there, my book's free on a PDF, so I'm not trying to convince anybody, it's an offering. So I just ask you to investigate, and you'll find that the ancients, they had a lot more knowledge about dimensional beings than we do currently. We don't have to look at, they told us what was going on. So I just am humbled, and I'm in awe of these ancients, and I just want to learn more about them, because they taught us a lot. I mean, I've tried to read Timotheus and the Greek writings and stuff. Good luck with that, man. They knew a lot.
Have you ever read any of Zachariah Sitchin's work?
I love him. I love him. I mean, he presents this is the thing. We're not going to know, but it's great to know everything you can. I mean, when I got out of Wall Street, I learned more when I moved out to a ranch to grow my own food, because nobody knows where anything comes from. And I started reading just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of books, like Eustace Mullins. Hundreds of books he started downloading, and my capacity to understand and everything. And then I said, well, I've got to start sharing it with people, because I'm finding and discovering much deeper truths, like what day was Washington, D.C. founded? Can anyone out there tell me? And everybody will go, no. Why not?
Well, what day was Washington, D.C. founded?
Now, that'll cost you $100. I had to research it. No, it's just in go on. The White House used to be named Andrew White after the first Archbishop, Roman Catholic, that landed in Freemason in Virginia, in Jamestown, Virginia, on the Freemason ship. It's all facts. You know, the Potomac used to be called the Tiber. We're still under Roman Latin law. You know, there's a theme going on here, folks.
Oh yes, it is. Oh yeah. And Washington, D.C. is
1871 is when the Washington, D.C., the federal government corporation was founded.
Correct. Corporation. That's correct. 12 square miles.
Yeah, so that's the date the papers were filed. It's a very important date. It's not 1776, but nobody's taught that. Just like, here's $100 to you if you can answer, ma'am. What does the District of Columbia mean?
I call it the District of Criminals, actually, but yeah.
No, but why did they name it that? I'm interested in their symbolism. That's how you tell what they're doing, is by their symbols. You shall know them.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. Well, Jordan Maxwell's one of the best.
District of Columbia. What's it like a district of attorney? What is it a district of?
I don't know. I don't know.
So that's part of the awakening stuff I do. And then I take the bills on the back of 9/11 and I fold the bills at a party and I just start folding them and people start coming, what's that? I said, have you seen 9/11 on the back of the 5, the 10, the 20, and the 50? And they're like, no, I don't have to try and change it.
I have seen it on a few of the bills. Yes, I have. Yeah.
You know, and
I didn't know it's on the 5, the 10, the 20, and the 50.
Yeah, and the 50 is the key, right?
Why is the 50 the key?
Because that shows no more buildings.
Okay, yeah, there you go.
Okay. And it's all based on the Washington Park fountain that had to move like 32 feet when it was either Bloomberg, no, it was Giuliani had to move it across so it lined up perfectly with the archways on the back of the currency. That was put together in 1996 is when the currency started. So that was premeditation right there. And then you carry it around in your back pocket and you agree with their darkness. You agree with what they're doing. And once you break that spell, which is this was what we're doing here. That's why 9/11, that's why we got hit out here on Paradise on 11/9. There's rhythm to this madness. They're using dark
hey, let's talk about Paradise. I do know that they use laser weaponry. I do know that the train is going through there. I think Cousin Bob, just before the show got started, said on YouTube, Bob, if you're listening, that there's a YouTube about that something about extraterrestrials. That there's one of the theories about that. Now, I also found out that they use the smart meters now with the high frequencies to start the fires. That's why people's houses catch on fire. Because they use the smart meters. So I also know that thousands are dead in Paradise. They shut all the roads, and I had 2 fire captains on saying it was laser weaponry, that you couldn't get out of Paradise, and they literally incinerated people, and literally thousands of people are dead. There were some homes still standing, and then supposedly the next day they were down. So Jamie, if you can let me what you guys know, I mean, hey, please do, because our listeners and the people need to know the information on exactly what happened in Paradise and anywhere else.
Yeah, and thank you for that. I mean, because I'm not hearing what people are assimilating and downloading from this story. That's just, it's such a huge story. And just to backtrack, I mean, I worked 25 years on Wall Street, and then I got out and I got a son, and I started looking at the world and saying, well, this debt load's going to kill us. So I moved to a ranch to get out of debt and raise food for my son and everything. And, you know, coming back to this, I moved to Santa Rosa because from the country to Santa Rosa because my son's going to school here. In the middle of the night on October 8th, 2017, we were evacuated at 4:30. My neighbor banging on the door saying, get the heck out. We didn't know what was happening. There's a fire, and I saw a ridge, and there was this orange stuff, but it wasn't smoke. I've been in fires. I've been in the forest. And I had been alerted about some similar type of incident. Everybody went to the coast, and this is good to bring it up really right now. The best and the most important thing you can do to get ready and prepare for what we're going to talk about tonight is to keep your gas tank full. and then know your neighbor's alert systems. What you're going to hear tonight is the alert systems didn't work. No matter who you think is going to call you, it's not being reported that happened at all. There was no help whatsoever for these people. So I'm cutting my teeth here with this that happened back in Santa Rosa. Did you understand what you think you saw in Santa Rosa during the Sonoma Napa fires last year?
Well, the thing about that was true, and that was definitely Lisa Webergy, and I thought that was just very interesting. They had houses burning, but there were trees standing. And then there were some trees that were burning from the inside. It was just, it's ironic. And people's cars melted. I mean, there were even on the street, the cars on the street, the cars literally melted. There were certain things about Santa Rosa that just didn't add up. And this
is the thing. What did that make you feel viscerally, though? Viscerally, when you saw that, a car completely torched. You know, a Kmart, 100,000-foot Kmart, completely towards the inside, but the trees right outside are fine. Cars, 3,000-pound cars, flipped on their roof. The narrative, the PG&E is all the cause when they haven't shown one proof whatsoever that a tree fell on a line and hit the PG&E box and started all the fires that moved at 30 miles an hour. And we'll get into how much the speeds they're ridiculously talking about these things moving, trying to explain to the people that don't think for themselves, or as my good friend John Knox says, they don't cultivate their common sense. What are you seeing? It doesn't make any sense unless whatever's left. And that's where directed energy weapons comes in. It had to be due. And that's where 4 directed energy weapon companies are stationed in Santa Rosa, and Fountain Grove is one of the major areas hit with a company called Keysight, a spinoff of HP Electronics, and that didn't get hit at all. And then there's all this nefarious stuff going on with the government, with ex-FEMA director James Lee Witt coming into Santa Rosa, taking over the Rebuild North Bay with his E5, E6 visa programs, bringing in Indian and Chinese people in. And then he's got his other company, Disaster Capitalism Company, with a company called C-Corp, publicly traded company. And his sub-company is Witt O'Brien. And I think they made like $16 million in the fourth quarter of 2017, profiting from Hurricane Harvey, which I went to 3 weeks after, because no one is reporting this stuff. People are dying and no one's covering it. It's not on the news. It doesn't exist. And I went down there and I spent a week interviewing over 50 people. And they said, please tell everybody this was not a hurricane. This was a flood. And I said, what do you mean? They said, well, then the first night came and we got 10 inches of rain starting at 1 o'clock in the morning. Well, we got attacked at 1 o'clock in the morning here in Santa Rosa, too. And they had 10 inches of rain and they had to sit on their roofs and floating up. And some people didn't get out. Older people didn't get out. And then the waters came down, and she says the greatest sight was the Cajun Patrol. They came to rescue us, citizens, in their boats. Now it's the Texas Patrol. They got armies they're forming for these floods because no one's coming to help them. And they said my wind chimes didn't even blow. Do you remember how they built that thing up for like 8-9 days? About it's coming, Category 4, biggest one ever. Just a year ago, folks. It wasn't that long ago. And this thing came in, and they told them it was downgraded to a tropical, so nobody left. So then the waters get down, they go back to their house, and that's when it really happened. And there's a site called Show Me Baby. He's on the Cajun Patrol. He tells a first-person story. I'm not going to get into the real bad stuff right here, but you can listen to Show Me Baby, Cajun Patrol, and there you'll hear a story about when he went in there. But they opened the dams in 3 different locations and flooded people out. That was when everything flushed into the Gulf of Mexico. No one's and there was another Hurricane Katrina that happened 2 weeks before in Orleans that wasn't reported, so it didn't happen. You ask people in New Orleans, did it happen? They'll say, oh, yeah, they hit us again. So here out in California, we're getting the fires, like you said, the train, the mega basins, their plans. Jerry Brown said November 2014, $500 billion to put in 5 mega basins in the Central Basin. Why? Because we're in droughts. Water won't come off the Sierras. They won't get the snowpack, so we need to build the basins. But we just had the greatest rains, second ever greatest rains and snows 2 years ago in 2017 when we had the atmospheric river and it dumped water on us. So they say it's a drought, but it's not. They say the winds came from the east to start these fires. Well, I've windsurfed all my life, San Francisco Bay. No winds come over the Sierras, the 12,000 foot. They come either down from Alaska, up from the Caribbean, or across from the West Coast in the colder temperature that way. They never come from the east. But that's how they say these storms came and moved all the way, traveling like it's never happened before. And what Jerry Brown is calling the new abnormal, saying these fires will be going on for the next 10, 15, and 20 years, and we can expect them to increase in intensity. What is he telling us?
Well, to me, it's genocide because, first of all, look, if the Taco Bell or the Rite Aid or shopping center catches on fire, okay, the city of Sherman Oaks doesn't catch on fire, doesn't burn to the ground. They're trying to say that, a shopping center caught on fire, so the entire town burned to the ground. That's just crazy. The fire department comes and puts it out. And the fact to sit there and say that Jerry Brown is saying this is that we're getting fires because of climate change. This is HARP. This is energy weapons. This is genocide. This is New World Order doing it. This isn't some fire. When you have a fire, the fire department is very well equipped, and they will come out and put it out because they're experienced and they know what they're doing. The fire department knows what they're doing. But this is not about the fire department. This is laser weaponry. This is genocide. This is New World Order. And they want people gone. And I think California is just a test site for the elite because they want the land.
Well, let's get into that in a minute. But just to get on the laser point, so I started investigating laser companies and started doing my thing about the technicals. And just to tell you what, I still have analysts that are in the industry that still cover like Lockheed and Martin Marietta and stuff. So right after that occurred here in Santa Rosa, I had recognized the same pattern from I think it was in Truth by Grace had done a wonderful video of up in Fort McMurray, Alberta, which is the fracking town where they had what's called the Beast Fire back in May 2016. And the same MO, this thing started for one day and lasted for 15 months. And it scorched cars, same MO. And this lady's like, how can it burn how can it make glass disappear? It takes 2,200 degrees. How can iron bathtubs? How can granite melt down till you can't even see them anymore? But they leave the plastic garbage cans on the outside. And so the next day after it happened here, I went around to the towns around here, and surgically certain areas were hit and other places were perfectly fine. Trees were not burned at all. How can it be a forest fire and the house is down to the grit, Bung? I mean, this is beyond our common sense because they, just like 9/11, they count on the absurdity of what you're seeing can't be true. And then our leaders say, go shopping after 9/11, right? And so, we have to be respectful of the meme they're throwing at us. But the technology, I can tell you, is very highly advanced. And what I just like the listeners to understand is you can go into 7-Eleven and buy a laser pen and shoot it up at a pilot. Don't do it. But, you can cause havoc in a pilot landing at 2,000 feet with a pen you bought from 7-Eleven. What do you think the military's had for 25 to 50 years? Easy. And the technology is up on platforms. I don't know if you've seen where you guys live. I don't know where you're living, but we have drones that are parked above us here in Santa Rosa now. I mean, it's Big Brother stuff all over the place now. And so then Paradise is 3.5 hours due northeast towards the Mount Sierra foothills up on this beautiful bluff of about 1,100, 1,200 feet overlooking the entire West Coast. Yes, it could be their residence. They maybe be calling it Paradise. They called it Paradise. That song by Don Henley fits perfectly, Last Resort. And they have a total water system up there, big water system. They have a railroad up there. They're logging the trees up there. It's based on John Milton's book, Lost Paradise. That's I titled my book that. Guess, ma'am, what date John Milton, forward by William Blake's book on Lost Paradise was written? November 8th. Wow. November 8th. Not, 8th is 9/11 too. 11/9. This is how they roll. And so these people that they say, and here's where we got to get into the numbers now. And I'm quoting, I have a dear friend that came out first with the number of 52,000 people. She said may not have gotten out. And when she published it on her Facebook site, I went, whoa, we shouldn't have done that. We don't know that. And then I go and I start researching and I get on The Guardian, and they use the number 52,000 evacuated. And the New York Times used the number 52,000 people evacuated. And CBS 60 Minutes just did a thing on Lost Paradise. I don't know if you saw the segment on 20 Minutes dedicated to it. But
no, I didn't. I didn't see it. No, sorry, I didn't. Missed it.
Yes, it's the same thing. They're using the number 52,000. Well, the town of Paradise, and I've been up there 3 separate times now, the town of Paradise is in Wikipedia, stays the same for 10 years between 26,300 and 26,800, 27,000 people. Mm-hmm. So where are they getting this number 52,000? So that's what we've been doing is trying to find it. Let's take 26,000, 27,000. So we we've gone down into town. Chico is like 12, 14 miles due northwest, and that's where people had to escape to. And we can't. I went through the Red Crosses when I was out here in Santa Rosa. We brought food to people. We organized. I've been in nonprofit organizations for a long time. We started organizing our own and helping people. So I saw the homeless. I saw what they did. They were flooding the streets out here. Traffic couldn't move anywhere. Airbnb got accused of price gouging. It's written up in the paper. You can read it for yourself. Rentals were through the roof. Everybody's in RVs. FEMA's giving everybody buses in the Sonoma County Fairgrounds for 2 months and then kicking them out after that. But it was a madhouse. And that's Santa Rosa. But this is a town that flooded out of one area, let's say 27,000, let's say 52,000, bugged out one way down the hill, heading west, got on 99, drove up to Chico, end of story. Where are they? We went to two FEMA, two Red Cross centers because I went to Hurricane Harvey specifically because $450 million of all our money, all you people that donated to Red Cross for Hurricane Harvey, not one person had seen that $450 million. And I'm sorry, the president makes $675,000, the CEO of Red Cross. I got a problem with that. The people don't see the money. Now you may have noticed that during Hurricane Harvey and Irma and one of the first fires, you donated at your local store. Would you like to donate to help Hurricane Harvey victims? Hurricane Katrina, remember that?
Yeah.
We're not seeing that now, are we?
So you're saying, well, I've always heard stories about the Red Cross that most of the money does not even go to the people at all.
Well, why did Trump go to paradise? Why did Trump go to paradise, but he didn't go to Malibu? He didn't go to Napa. He didn't go up to Redding. Why did Trump and Gavin Newsom, new governor, and Jerry Brown, who says they're going to keep burning us out of here, he's got it on good authority, and then they just announced, Cal Chief Kem Pimlott just announced again that, by the way, we're probably not going to rebuild in the certain fire danger areas. It doesn't make sense if the fires are going to be continuing. Same thing they said down in Malibu. These people are never going back. It's land grab.
They're definitely, the elite's definitely taking the property. This is confiscation. And they don't want people.
This is a plan being executed through using weather weaponry. I mean, this is the U.S. Air Force document owning the weather. In 1996, U.S. Air Force came out with a document called Owning the Weather 2025. By 2025. By 2025. They got it. They own it. They got the skies, and they manipulate weather at their will. And they use these drones, and they use different types of frequency lasers that I don't know if you had Alana Freeland on your show, but she's got it all dialed in, how they use the ionosphere and the frequencies and how they do it. I understand how they do it. It's not hard. And so getting back to my friend at Lockheed, when I called him after the Santa Rosa fires 2 days after, and I said, he can't tell me stuff because I'm not on the inside anymore. But we play this game where if I'm right, he doesn't answer me. And I said, was that the Boeing A3 to A238Bs with the lasers hitting us 2 days ago? And he said, no. And I said, yeah, but I got pictures of lasers. People sent them to me on their phones. They sent me pictures they saw, and I saw blue light too. What was the delivery system? And he says, what did you get your son for Christmas? I said, I don't know. I got him a drone. A drone. So that's our little game, but anyway, it's just further confirmation. And then this website, industrialsurrealism.com, chronicles what's up there, folks. It's not high technology. If you've got drones in your backyard that fly everywhere, what do you think the military has on spy? They just release it very slowly to put this net over us. And that's why the movie Skynet is about that same principle of having the control of the airwaves, of the frequency modulations of everything. And that's why they're getting us to have these Alexas in our house, and we desire is what's hooking us. And now in 2020, you're going to have biometric IDs at the airports where they're taking your eye scans, and that's everything about you. That's your ID footprint. They can recognize you from anywhere, and they're just collecting data on everybody. Why? You and I probably grew up in a time where people said it's none of your business. Do you remember that time?
I do remember that time. Yeah.
We got to start saying that again.
I think so, and definitely. California seems to be a test site for the New World Order, I think these fires are really going to stir some people up. Not all, but some. Especially if they won't let people go back. I think California is going to be definitely an enigma because you can't really live here. It's too expensive. The taxes are outrageous, and they're hurting everybody that's living here now. It's not even a nice place to live anymore because of the taxes, because of the chemtrails. You can't breathe. I mean, you just can't breathe. The chem is so bad here in Los Angeles in the San Fernando Valley that you constantly are coughing. Sometimes your nose, people who have sinuses, even just small sinus problems, have large problems with their sinus, because you're constantly having to use Sudafed because you've got constant drip. Sometimes the drip smells like it's chlorine coming out of your nose. You're like, what the hell? It's that bad. I mean, it's crazy because a couple of times, I mean, I don't necessarily have allergies, but there's been a few times where I have a drip out of my nose and I can smell it just out of one side. And I'm like, it smells like chlorine coming out of my nose. And I'm like, my God, what are they spraying in the air? But, you have to go out and sometimes do some errands.
Yeah,
you know how that
where's
goes.
all the doctors? Yeah, where's the doctors? We got to talk about this for a second, if you don't mind.
Okay, sure.
I love this forum. We can chat. Big Pharma, Western Corporation, they're a corporation. They make money to enhance shareholder value. Getting you sick is profitable. Anything they give you for free in business, you must question why they give you free flu shots. Why do they sell beers at gas stations?
I don't take the flu shots. But yeah, I tell people to stay away from them.
Drugstore. There's a war on drugs, but we got drugstores everywhere, right? We go to fill up our gas, and there's beer so we can drink and drive. They make it tempting for you. They allow you to drive 10 miles over the speed limit, so everybody's breaking the law. And then they tell you it's a privilege to drive because it's a commercial applied license, because we're all straw men in our citizenships, partnerships, relationships. We're on ships, ownership, scholarship. And then we got the water and the court system with the docket and the bailiff. And then our money system, I didn't learn this, I got it at Wall Street, but it's all based on admiralty law. We got a river bank, our currency, cash flow, liquid, illiquid. And what's the name of the Vatican? The Holy See. Who's the treasurer for the Vatican? The Rothschilds, the single bank that clears all trades for central banks, including the Federal Reserve, which is a private corporation that makes money, printing money at interest for the U.S. government. The more debt they run up, the more money they make. And look at how much money they're making at all our expenses. Just announced increase in a $700 billion increase in the military spending after a 10% increase already when Trump took office. Holy cow, folks. What are they doing to our children? I got out in 2007 because it was going to be ugly. This is nothing compared. And you're just citing all the problems we already have. We got homeless everywhere. There's no funding for anything.
In California, there's homeless. I can tell you, lots of homeless in California. Absolutely.
And it's not just people that are just, can't get a job or heroin addicts. I don't want to hear that. There's people that are good people that are just can't. It's not that they can't live, like you said. I mean, if you take the amount of rent on the average of $15 an hour, which is now the minimum wage, and try to apply that to a 2-bedroom apartment, forget about it.
No, you can't. Listen, you got people living out of their cars now because they can't afford a 1-bedroom at $2,000 first and last, and then you've got to come up with utilities, and you might have to pay a car payment, or you're paying a car insurance. You can't live in California. California is like it's like, how do you say, like it's like some type of gargoyle, some type of creature that's it's just taking everything. I mean, it's like it's unbelievable. You can't.
What's that guy called it? The Quid's Claw. Who was that guy? Yeah. It's just an omnipresent beast that's slow dripping us to death with all the taxations, all the new rules. Now the new home build, the garages have to have battery backups for the garages so people can get out of the cars. All new homes built in California have to have solar panels now on them. And then by 2022, all California homes are going to have 30% reduction in water because we're running out of water. So everybody's going to have to pay the fines of $1,000 for an infraction. This is coming down the pipe.
Yeah, I did hear that Mammoth got 25 feet of snow or something. They're above the snowpack beyond words. I love it when they sit there and say we have to have a water reduction, and you're like, dude, there's no drought. It's beyond words what they've really done the last couple of years, physically, mentally, and spiritually. It's just it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and here's where I want to get people, they don't get too down for everything, because I look at it now as we're the seeds. We're the beginnings. This is the end of darkness. By shining yourself, I honor you and all that you work with you and help you to get the light out. Because once you shine light into the darkness, it's not darkness anymore. There's light on it. It's your light, but it's now your shadow. And you're responsible for that darkness. You own it. And this is the dawn of understanding now. We're turning. This is the beginning of hopium, I call it, because we're starting to see solutions and things we can do. Like Deborah Tavares has just been wonderful talking about primary water. We got all the water we want, folks, 300 feet down. Hello. We got 100 years ago, Nikola Tesla, energy, and free water. What would the world look like? Let's pretend for a moment and imagine. No more war, no more countries, free water. I mean, it's there. It's right here if we can come together. And so, coming together, unity through diversity, not talking politics. Small minds talk about people, average minds talks about ideas. Intelligent minds talk about events. Intelligent minds talk about ideas. Like, what can we do? Well, let's start doing it. Well, we're taking clothes up to Paradise, and we reached out on Facebook and raised over $9,000 so far. And I'm putting on the videos of me like I did at Harvey. They trusted me. Off the internet, people that don't even know me put their name on a check and sent me a check to give to the people of Hurricane Harvey. And I went on film and I showed me handing the bills out to the people in need. And we're doing the same thing up in Paradise now. I've got over $9,000 raised. I want to get 20 grand. And we've got people bringing it up to people who need it and the people that can bring it to them. And I can show you on Facebook, the stories they're heartwarming. But there's no one else doing this because no one's helping these people that supposedly got off the hill, which we are having a really, really hard time finding. Where are all the people? They're not in town. We went to the Red Cross Center, the Butte County Fairgrounds, and I talked to the security guard for 45 minutes. He was from Georgia. He was on employment with Red Cross on November 8th from Georgia. Think about that.
Wow. That's pretty amazing.
And then Deborah Tavares has got the National Guard at the FEMA camp we went to, the Office of Emergency Services, and the FEMA camp next to the Chico Airport on 30 acres at least, with a bunch of 10 to 15 semis, 5 hitches, and then this big circus tents like Cirque du Soleil, a huge operation. And we had clothes to drop off. Where can we drop off clothes? And the guard said, I don't know. Let me go ask my supervisor. I don't know.
Oh, God. Oh.
And then we went to the Red Cross Center and talked to the guard. And he says, there's maybe 90 people in here, and there's the people with the Nova virus back there. And then this other lady who was the former mayor of Nevada County, she went up there to another one. She says, there's nobody there. And this guy said he was closing down the 91 in 2 days. And he said he worked another one that had 300, and there was 4 Red Cross tents. So that means an average of maybe 150. So we're talking 600 people. Where's the RVs? We went to Walmart and we went to the parking lot and we saw maybe about 10 RVs and we saw the camp next to it. Except that they said all the people there were homeless people. They weren't the victims. Where did they go? So we're still searching, we're still asking, we're still questioning, but we're using their official number that all these mainstream news medias, the news that's fit to print says 52,000. Town's only 27,000, but everyone to a person said, no way, it was growing like crazy. They were getting a Starbucks in. No, and the stuff about it being something racial or old people, that's not true either. It's a very wonderful group of people, just back to the land kind of people. They're all on septics and stuff. But you can just listen to the testimonies and the videos of things I'm publishing, Richie from Boston's publishing, some of these other people are publishing. And these victims are saying, we saw just houses just blow up. There was no fire where we were, and this house blew up right next to me. Tow truck driver comes in there, first person accounts. He says, nobody got out. He says, this was mass murder, his words. So Paradise, why there? Who knows? Well, the trees where we went up there were only burnt from the ground up 20 feet. Nothing from the tops was burnt. And the bark on the ponderosa pines, the bark was seared, but the wood was fine. And that's prime lumber. It turns out a guy that owns the whole area, richer than Bill Gates and more land than Ted Turner, is a guy named Red Emerson. And he's owned all that lumber up there, and he helps support the local fire departments to get the fires put out on the lumber first. So all these trees are fine for harvesting for resources. Bingo. And then they got this huge station, PG&E massive station of hundreds and hundreds of PG&E trucks staged going up the hill, putting in who knows what, because they won't let us in there still. And they closed down the dental office because we don't do body counts anymore because we closed down the body because the dental office is down and we can't get the records. Nobody's asking questions. Their highest number they said was missing was 1,341, 1.341 pi. They said 6.66 inches of rain fell on Paradise. Yet neighboring 20 miles away was 1.74 inches of rain. Anybody knows symbolism knows exactly what I'm talking about spiritually. This is the spiritual war. So I'm sad, but I'm awake. Once we see them, it's full disclosure now. And it's not just the fires. This is California, yes, but Oregon too, and places you're not hearing about are getting attacked just as much. Queensland, same week that happened over in Paradise, November 8th. They got 120 wildfires started all at once in Queensland, Australia. This is weather weaponry.
Unbelievable.
Yeah, it's hard to conceive. It's so out of context for all of us. But what I think this is forcing us to do is go into our inner self and find out what we're made of. Did we really choose here to fight this battle? And you're going to have your carpet pulled out from under you, folks. I guarantee it. I've been at it since 2005. And it's going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to be comfortable. And your friends aren't going to understand you. And you're going to want to talk. And they're not going to want to hear you. And you're going to try, but you love them. And, I compare it to my born-again Christian brother who tried to convert me to Jesus all the time when I was younger. And I said, Dave, why do you keep trying? He goes, I'm just planting seeds. It's up to God what's going to grow. And then he'd walk off with a big smile, right? And so that's what I'm doing. And I've just been at seed planting for a while. But it's what do you want now? We in Mendocino County passed a Measure S in November 2016 by vote of the County of the People saying County Community Bill of Rights supersedes state and federal law. 1. 2, we preemptively ban fracking. 3, we give legal representation and rights to nature to let it be. It has legal standing now in the court of law. And the Board of Supervisors are required to report to the local community Bill of Rights first and foremost before they speak to any state or federal law. It passed. First document like this had ever been passed in the country. Yet after that, we're all like fighting cats and nobody wanted to come together, but there was a solution to what people in their communities can do legally by self-declaration because you have the right to abolish government. It says it right there, folks. You just got to claim it. It's a hearing. You got to speak your truth. It's an oral argument. So then we declared that we had this power, but what I wanted to do, what nobody followed up on, was go grab the $325 million in the Mendocino County pension. Whoa. It's all the people's money. Voting, you want to support Google and Facebook and all these oppressive regimes and Amazon that just bought Whole Foods. You want to support all these guys? Or do you want to support your local communities? Now we're talking. Now we got something going. And it's on the books there still if the people woke up enough to want it bad enough. But we haven't suffered quite enough yet. I think people are waking up now, but it's like, what do we do? Well, you start activating. What do you want to do? Not an anti thing, but what do you want to do? And at first they ignore you. Then they ridicule you. Then you fight. Then you win. Right? Where are we?
Wow. Just a lot of information.
And just to add just the one thing, because I've gone through this, so that's why I'm trying to be the advice. You guys will get through this fine. I had a very, very, very dear friend who got on the websites with me. He started moderngnostic.com, Bruce Hillier, and it got too dark for him, and he took his life. And he called me in the morning, and I didn't pick it up. I called him at night. He was gone. Reach out to folks. Get on the Facebook and say, I'm in this area. Awakening Truthers, meet up here. Go talk to others because you're all by your lonesome when you start waking up right now. And now's the time to wake up and to reach out to others. And so that's one of the things you can do as well. And then the other thing is get this book by Kubler-Ross. I don't know if you have gotten into the 5 stages of grief by Kubler-Ross. Have you heard of that one?
What did you say? Sorry about that.
The 5 stages of grief. Yeah. First is like the girl, first is denial. That the girl's broken up with you, but you were a scumbag to her. You played poker with the boys instead of be with her, so she breaks up with you. Oh, she's going to come back. Then she doesn't come back. So what do? You bargain with her. So then you bargain with her and realize she's really not coming back. Oh my gosh, she's not coming back. Then you get angry. How could she do that to me? And then you have to get past the fact that she's not coming back. You have to find acceptance. And then you move forward. So understand where you and people are in the stages of grief as we're going through this process. It's well known. It's called the Four Noble Truths of Suffering in Buddhism. First understand that suffering is the root cause of everything. Understand that what the causational factors are of suffering. Understand the path to alleviate suffering, and then take the path to alleviate the suffering. And that's what they call the bodhisattvas that have come back here to help us all help with our suffering. Because that's why we do this harm to each other, because we're hurting inside and we're acting out on our brothers and sisters. But one day that will end. This is the beginning of the dawn of the understanding of light. And that's what I'm hopeful on. But not this week or month. We're just waking up to this now. So we got some time. I don't know if that's helpful or not.
Oh my Lord. So, the thing about this is too, for some of the people who can't go, paradise, I don't see anybody. Is there people going to try to rebuild back into paradise, or try to buy and pack up in paradise, or just paradise really going to be just gone? Hey, we'll be right back. Hold on, Jamie. We're just going to first top of the break. We got a whole hour to come. We got about a minute or so, 2 minutes for the commercials and stuff. But we'll be right back with Jamie Lee. Calvin give out his websites. We'll be right back. This is the Granada Forum Radio program, ladies and gentlemen. This is Revolution Radio. Hold on.
Radio at freedomslips.com, and we'll be right back after this message.
Hello, all you good-looking people out there in Revolution Radio. This is Mario. I invite you to join me Thursdays at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other. It's a show about you, it's a show about me, but ultimately it's a show where we try to have a little bit of fun. We discuss important topics, and we do our best to be apolitical. So I invite you, put on your favorite pair of comfy sweats, your smoking jacket, and grab a beverage of your choice, and join me Thursday evenings at 6 o'clock for This, That, and the Other on Revolution Radio.
Enter into a world unseen on Raven Star's Witching Hour. You will encounter eclectic topics from the realm of spirit brought into our matrix of truth. With your host, the Solaris Blue Raven. Solaris will bring you an array of unique guests covering topics from ghostly spirits to amazing anomalies, covert technology, UFOs, and shadowy global events.
And that's right here at Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, Saturdays midnight till 2 a.m. Eastern Time. Revolution Radio, where information never sleeps.
Let the magic rise.
From the astral realms to the physical plane, the halls of power to the walls of home, the multiverse to the innerverse, all will be haunted by the ghost in the machine. I am Steve Zerloff, the ghost in the machine. Mondays, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Studio B, exclusively here on Revolution.Radio.
This is Barbara DeLong, host of Nightlight Radio, inviting you to join me on a cosmic journey, exploring a metaphysical montage of spiritual material, covering everything from the mundane to the magical, UFOs to unicorns, and everything in between, including spiritual readings for those who seek enlightenment. Let Nightlight provide you with equal measure of light, love and laughter, insight, wisdom, and inspiration. Monday nights, 10 to 12 p.m. Eastern, right here on Studio B, Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com.
Do you or someone you know suffer from poor circulation, shortness of breath, or chest pains? Are you looking for a more natural solution to help overcome these problems? People tell us that after just a few months taking Extendivite, their doctors have noticed unexplainable improvements in their overall health. For more information, visit heartdrop.com or call 1-877-928-8822.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
And tell them Nighthawk sent you, because if you call this number and tell them Nighthawk sent you, you'll get $5 off your first order at extendivite.com. Thank you. The opinions expressed on this radio station, its programs, and its website by the hosts, guests, and call-in listeners or chatters are solely the opinions of the original source who expressed them. They do not necessarily represent the opinions of Revolution Radio and freedomslips.com, its staff, or affiliates. You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Hey, welcome back to the Granada Forum Radio program, ladies and gentlemen. This is Revolution Radio. Our wonderful guest, Jamie Lee, and we're going to have him give out his website. And we guess we got a whole another hour, and we'll take some questions if somebody wants one. But Jamie, give out your website.
Sure. Website and YouTube channel, plane, truth.info.
Okay, cool. You want to say that one more time, just be safe?
Sure. plane, truth.info.
Cool. All right. So let me ask you something, Jimmy. What we've discussed Paradise, kind of what's going on in Malibu, we've discussed some of the water problems. What do you see for California? I mean, if they continue if they're doing this now, because we had like Thousand Oaks, we had Newbury Park, we had Westlake, we had Calabasas and parts of West Hills, and of course Malibu, and then up in Paradise.
And the Wesley fire that happened the same time as Paradise, and the Goleta fires that happened in Santa Barbara that got hit again, and then the rains that came 3 days after. They hit the Hollywood people in Santa Barbara, Oprah's house. They hit the Hollywood people down in Malibu. None of the wineries up here got hit at all. We had the Redding fires twice. They had Oregon fires too. This is all in the last 14 months, folks. We had Lake County that hit 4 years in a row, and that's where they're building one of the big mega basins. Then we had the Mendocino Complex fire. Then we had our Santa Rosa fires, and now we have the Paradise fire. We had Yosemite. We forgot about Yosemite. And they say Lake Tahoe is going to be burning down. And he says we're in the first inning, folks. Get this, 10, 15, 20 years. This guy came back on TV to say it was the new normal. He was calling the fire season going forward. And he changed it to the new abnormal and made a point for 2 minutes to make that distinction. They're telling you what they're doing. It's California's turning to a resource allocation center. Why did the Walmart house 15 young girls, whether they're from abroad or not, they're young girls, in a detention center in a former Walmart with razor wire? And where did they go? Come on, folks. There's no more retail stores, but the retail stores were designed by a guy named Sam Walton, Walmart, martial law backwards. And if you look at Sam Walton, who he was U.S. Naval Intelligence. He designed the Japanese internment camps in 1943. What do the retail stores look like? I mean, why is Foxconn moving into Wisconsin, largest maker of all your smartphones and stuff? They have to have suicide nets up there because the people jump off. They hate their life so much. And they're opening it up in Wisconsin, in Alabama, the Chinese in there. And the thing they did also here is they burned out everybody's guns. They took them all out. People sitting in cars, people sitting in homes. They took all their guns out. What are they doing? Surgery. It's so advanced. It's just like crop circles. Everybody's wondering about crop circles. No, it's simple. It's just a filter over a laser, and they get the weeds to whatever, the plants to whatever bend temperature they want. It's just frequency, and they can attune it super high levels with their D waves, their logarithm computers, their high technology. Again, if you can get, I was amazed I could get all my albums, my 900 albums on an iPod. To me, that still blows me away. I mean, but the technology doubles every year, Moore's law. So they've had this technology, they use it where they want, and now they're showing their hand. It's going to be a weather war trying to stop us. And then they're saying you have to have all your own energy coming, solar energy is going to be coming, but they're dimming the sun with all the geoengineering. So how do you get more energy when they're dimming the sun on you?
I don't know, and in the fact that they're cutting people's energy. I mean, I think they want blackouts. I mean, they're trying. It's California. They're practically going to make it a third world country in itself, because you won't be able to live here because you won't have power. You won't have water. And it's
not about you. I'm sorry. It's just we're just pawns in the game. We're just pawns in their game.
Well, it's definitely transhumanism, because they don't. It's depopulation in California for sure.
Right, but it's also, climate refugees is the new term we're dealing with here. And why did the borderline bar have that incident going on the same time that Trump's doing the 10 to 15,000 troops down to the border and we're going to shoot about it? What happened to all that story? Where did that go, media folks? We follow what they put on the black screens. It's been propaganda since the 1920s with Walter Lippmann and Edward Bernays. The book Propaganda is a must-read. The Rockefellers, the Guggenheims, the J.P. Morgans had 30% more wealth than the Ellison, Buffetts, and Gates of today. They created the nonprofit so they could buy up all the schools, the Smithsonian's, the Columbia teachers, teach all the Western docs, who ranked 38th out of 38 in the world in quality of care of modern. We rank dead last in quality of care in medicine. Please don't give your power away to these doctors. Go to earthclinic.com and look up solutions for yourself that isn't about injecting or taking a pill or lasering stuff off of you. And it's just about taking back control of our lives. And the reason we have to vote is because we don't know where anything comes from. Where's your water come from? I don't know. Food? They don't even tell us what's in it. Okay, water? They got fluoride. I know that, so that's not good. We don't know where anything comes from anymore. We've lost our ability to be self-sufficient and self-reliant. So the answer, another solution, is grow food. Support a farmer. Get a filter, a Berkey filter or something for your water for your precious children. We've never seen more obesity, more ADHD, asthma, allergies in children than we are today. So we have to become local. We have to become tribal, look, touch, and feel. Declare what you want, but start doing something about getting yourself self-sufficient and then helping others. And then we can start talking about, when this big collapse of this economy is about to happen, how do we help each other and instead of going after each other? And this is another horrible story, but a true story. When the S hit the fan up there and it started at Paradise, it started at 6:30 in the morning on November 8th on a Thursday. No alarms went off. Nobody said to get out. It just happened. They had evacuation drills a year before, so they had the routes all mapped out. They could have got these people out. No one came. So this lady said for 2 hours she saw one fire truck, one, and they were on their own. And these 2 lanes were blocked on one way going down the hill, but the other 2 lanes were going up were wide open. Nobody was coming up, and nobody thought to get in the other lanes and drive down the hill. People got torched in the gas stations waiting for gas. They just picked them off. They didn't want people leaving. That's what we're finding out now. And we can't find there's no body count. So who are you going to ask? And if it's not on the TV show, how do you know it's true? And I'm the only one, along with a couple other brave souls, going up there and talking to people and saying, whoa. And we're making connections and we're going to do what we can. And, maybe I'm putting my life at risk by doing this, but boy, what won't you? And it's just, I grew up in a very Christian family and I kept asking the question, why did Christ die on the cross? Well, he died on the cross because he was an activist. He threw over the bankers' tables 3 days before he was crucified. To tell you his spirit is bigger than the body. And so, we all need to step up now. All the older people that have lived a while, we've had a wonderful bankruptcy. We bankrupted our children. And that's all by design. They got us all in debt servitude, $1.5 trillion in student loans. And as soon as they raise interest rates, those students get above $50,000. They passed a law that says anybody owes $50,000 in taxes has their passport revoked. The wall's not going up to keep us others coming in. That's the story. Right hand, left hand. It's to keep us in at $15 an hour. And there's too many people in the resources of the Biodiversity Agenda 21 plan. So they're just following through with the 1992 Rio Agenda 21, Agenda 2030 that Deborah Tavares talks wonderfully about, much about. And they're just executing their plans, literally. And you're right. It is genocide. Let's call it that. Let's call it in the United States. The Paradise Fires I mean, if we're talking anywhere north of 4,000 people, we're talking an event bigger than 9/11, folks. Much, much bigger. And nobody's talking about it. So I thank you for keeping this lit. We got to keep this candle lit, you know.
Is this a good time to ask a question?
Go ahead, John. Do you want to ask a question?
Well, I think also of the Oroville Dam situation, which has sort of been neglected since Gavin Newsom ran for governor of California. But previous to that, as lieutenant governor, he was responsible for the maintenance of the earth-filled Oroville Dam. And that was one of our key reservoirs in the state of California. And I've heard rumors to the effect that there might have been attempts to sabotage that earth-filled dam, which, by the way, requires constant maintenance. And some rumors even persist that some type of explosives were already placed within that dam. Have you heard anything related to that?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, and I've looked into that. There was concrete evidence that came out right after. We're talking this event was during the atmospheric river when the dam that goes up towards Tahoe, and it was the largest reservoir. It blew its whole run out, and there was evidence that there were bombs planted. And then they evacuated the people in the middle of the day after saying, no, stay. And then they gave a text like at 2 o'clock in the afternoon and said, okay, everybody go. And everybody had to bail. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
And then, so there is, if you think about gold and what the properties of gold are, and the Gold Nugget Museum was in the center of paradise, that's all gold in those hills, and there's much gold underneath. So underneath this big reservoir is what I'm projecting is some type of gold laboratory, something going on in there, and they could just blow something. But we had evidence that there was some explosive devices that were used, and then it was scrubbed off the internet within 3 days, 4 days after the event. You couldn't find those articles anymore. So yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Now, Wendy mentioned lasers. Deborah Tavares came on a few weeks ago and brought 2 paramedics from a fire department, 2 retirees, who claimed that lasers were used in the fire. And I also mentioned that I had a guest years ago on one of my commercial radio programs in San Diego. You may recall there was a large wildfire in San Diego County about 10 years
2015,
ago.
Yeah, 2015.
Yeah. And all of the people were being temporarily housed in the large stadium where the San Diego Chargers football team at that time played. And he claims he had a very strong scientific background. This gentleman, with whom I had a very interesting conversation, he claimed that a laser back then had destroyed his home about 40 miles inland from the city of San Diego. So these things apparently have been around for quite a while, but kept under wraps for the most part. He seemed to think it came from space, but based on what you said, it could even be a laser placed on a drone.
It is. Look at Desert Research Institute, DRI.edu, Desert Research Institute. They show you they're using drones to start fires and disperse chemicals. In their website, you open it up, it's right there. And that's Nevada City right next door. And then Beals Air Force Base, which has the pave pause radio frequencies that disrupt all the technology, spraying the barium, spraying the aluminum into the clouds, creates the metallic aluminum oxide that they reported seeing white dust on the trees on the event. And that's used to excite the ionosphere and to create the swirling vortex energy. Energy is created not by explosion, but by implosion. Think of a tornado. A guy named Victor Schauberger. Everyone should learn that. He's like an Einstein about water, free energy. Victor Schauberger showed us that the vortex energy they create by the lasers and the white aluminum oxide, which they all reported the day of. And also back in January 2018, the people in Paradise said they sprayed a white powder on them as well, prepping the soil to get the right conductivity. And then once you got the polarities between the Earth polarity and the ionospheres and dropping the sky down to a certain level, it's just dialing it in and what frequencies you want to use to what you want to do. And they can just go zap, zap, put all the, everybody can be identified by just as simple as the chip in your credit card now. We're all chipped. We all have aluminum in us. We're all antennas. So it's like, but they're afraid of us. We have more power than them. We can overcome frequencies with their frequencies. This is why they're allowing medical marijuana around the world to be approved at the exact same time. Anybody want to wonder why? Why is all of a sudden marijuana just approved in Australia and Ireland and in Mexico? And why? Because it has a different frequency when you smoke it. And so they want to modulate your frequencies through mind control technologies that are simple, not that difficult, been around a long time. And if everybody smokes the pseudo Kmart cannabis stuff, they stay down in the lower frequencies. This is all the mind control slaves, and everybody's gotten into that. Deborah Tavares, myself, we've been attacked with psychotronic weaponry. It's part of the business. They have many powers, but we're more powerful than them, and they know it, and they're afraid of us. That's why they've been kept in the dark. So I appreciate you bringing this light out and these other stories, confirming what we're all learning about what's really going on here. And it's this biggest story of 5,000 years. And if you go back to the Mayan calendar, just back in December 21st, 2012, this 5,163-year rock said, you will gain more consciousness big time. Look what's happened since 2012. It's awesome. So, I'm glad to be with it with you guys. I'm glad that awakening truthers are coming out and speaking out. That's what we need.
Thank you.
Well, Jamie, let me ask you this: do you feel that within 10 years? I mean, because right now you do not have, the average person cannot live in California. I see a great people are leaving in droves. They have been for the last 20, but I can really see they'll be out of California because you just can't live here.
Well, they'll be out of everywhere. I mean, I don't know if you've got into the Georgia Guidestones with any of your guests or the Silent Weapons for Quiet Wars document or anything that says there's 95% too many people on Earth. And if you get back to the real creators of all these stories, it's very biblical what is going on here. And the other thing you're talking about is creation and destruction. And what everybody would try to understand is the people that are pulling and these are people behind corporations. These aren't just entities we talk about. There's actual people behind doing this stuff. It's not just a corporation or the Federal Reserve. And so they all have similar bloodlines. They're all part of a much deeper story about who we are, where we came from, and how things were set up. And I ask everybody to become a new student. Look with a new set of eyes what this whole business about the U.S. Constitution and freedom we got here. Why did we pick the same color flag as Britain if we beat Britain and they were going to kick our butts? Would you pick the same colors? Look up the East Indian Tea Company. You'll see a cross, a red cross, and you'll see the red and white stripes. Looks just like our flag, except they swapped out stars. Now, those are the guys we're supposed to throw the tea in and all the Tea Party story. And the U.S. Constitution is a contract. This is all contract law we're under. And when it says we, the people, the 55 rich white guys that own land, they said that we're the only ones that can vote. You can't assign a contract. You can't. It's illegal. It's fraud. And they didn't include blacks. They were 3/5 of a person for accounting purposes. We, the people, took women another 80, 100 years. African Americans. I mean, really, we've been snowed so much. Everything is a lie. And then once you get that, you got to start being inquisitive. Curiosity and wisdom. Those are the two things that go hand in hand. Just be curious and don't listen to anybody else. Do your own research. And you're going to find some really deep, dark truths that haven't been revealed to any generation until this moment in time. This is huge. This is the greatest awakening in modern history, folks. At the greatest time, the darkest forces are taking over. And that's our soul's contracted to come here. I guarantee you that. So now we're finding our tribe. We're jumping in the river like the Hopi prophecy said. This is the 12th hour. 5 people in the river. The river has its destination. The people on shore will remain on shore. Let them on shore. But know the river has its destination. Get in the river with others. The river has its destination. And so I honor being in the river with all you listeners who are coming to your own truths. And the onion's very deep. I've been at this hardcore 24/7 for 14, 12 years, and I'm still learning stuff. These guys, they've been at it for quite some time. They've been planning it for quite some time. And the way that I was going to get to is why they do all the warring for 5,000 years, and we're transitioning from the male testosterone war to the feminine divine in the big picture. This is going to be nurture nature because we're all under attack, and Earth is under attack too. We can't forget the life-giving forces of Earth. And so at the end, what they do is they create and they destroy because the male sperm doesn't die while they're alive. But a woman at menopause loses birth-giving qualities. So they've decided that they must create and destroy the feminine divine. And that's why Persephone is on top of the White House, which is Isis. And that's why Washington, D.C., 1871 was the new birthing of their new creation, so they could destroy her. Sorry to say, folks. And that you can know that by the two states on each side of Washington, D.C. or what,
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
Go ahead, Wendy.
No, go ahead. Go ahead, John.
Okay. Well, I was just focused on California in my mind for a moment. I think we were the state of California was about the 5th or 6th largest economy in the world not so long ago. I don't know where it is now on the leaderboard, but California has also been looked upon as the experimental state. Whatever devious tactics are designed against this nation will first be attempted in California. And those who live elsewhere in the nation should keep that in mind. Also, as I recall, during the time of the Clintons, there were agreements, secret agreements allegedly made with the Chinese whereby California would become Chinese property. I don't know if you've ever heard similar rumors to that effect or not, but I begin to wonder that if that were true, they would have to have some means of basically destroying the ownership of current California so that it could be transferred by some other means to the Chinese or some other foreign entity. It's something to think about, at least. Your thoughts on that, Jamie?
I kind of take it a little, there's three ways to look at it. There's mentally, spiritually, and physically. The physical part of what you talk about, a country, is a corporation by law. California is a corporation. Mendocino County is a corporation. The golf course utility companies set up their own corporations, and they don't have to report the same reporting standards as the revenue generating from property taxes and different things. In fact, they made a law way back in the 70s in California, and this is Walter Braun brought it out, and it's called the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Reports, CAFR. Look it up, and it's the full accounting of all the corporations that are set up in this other shell company called California. And you can see all these massive assets of stockholders, Morgan Stanley, Goldman Sachs, all this property held by the state of California Corporation. And they made a law that they said you can't balance the books of the state of California with invested assets. And with lotto money coming in, you get all this money coming in for lottos, and what happens? People come in and they get a big payout from everybody putting the money, yet the tax guy says, I'll take half. So who benefits? And then they invest all this money, and they take all the money out, and they skim it out, and that's why the Cayman Islands and everybody has $32 trillion in offshore funds, because they're skimming all our countries, all our investments, all our money, and now we're out of pension money, so now they're saying they're going to cut our pensions. I mean, wake up, folks. It's not just California, it's a corporation. So this is where we can get additional money for our own setups in our own areas, is get into the CAFR reports. You'll see that your golf course, like they were cutting back the timber here because they said, oh, we have the redwoods because we can't afford to have the redwoods open for people to camp because we don't have staff anymore. Well, I showed there was $22 billion in this fund. There was plenty of money right here sitting in an investment account in a cash investment account underneath the California Forestry Service, sitting right there on their CAFR reports. Oh, we can't use invested money. That's illegal. So legally, they can't do it because they set up their laws about what they were going to skim and take all our money and all our work. Why do you think you pay taxes? That's slavery. I'll shoot a gun if you don't pick cotton. We call that slavery. But you pay your taxes, or you will altogether now go to jail. We've been mind programmed, folks. It's overwhelming. But the structure that we talk about, a country, I don't agree with it. I take one step here and I can't smoke a marijuana joint. I take another step here and I can't because they tell me so. I'm sorry, I don't recognize that authority. I'm the author of my own authority. I'm growing my own food. I have my own water. I have my own power. Yet if I don't pay my property taxes of $15,000, armed guards are going to take away my property. You're talking about freedom? It's just another, it's just, they got us by, George Carlin, they got us by the balls. We got to wake up and stop giving them power about this system, that system. It's all designed to enslave us. And then if you challenge the municipal system, they take you up to the state system, and you challenge that and you win, you go up to the federal. They got you running up into their power bases by law. How are you going to win? You vote. People don't know what the root vote even comes from. It's all based on electromagnetic energy. Washington, D.C. direct current comes from voting at the polls to charge the candidate. It's about battery. That's why it's called electric or elections, because you charge card. It's all based on electromagnetic energy, the principles of frequency. So, once we wake up to that, then we understand what we're dealing with. Now people are saying, well, instead of getting lasered on my house, can I put mirrors so I won't get smoked? I mean, this is where, you got people putting up Faraday cages to counter the frequencies that are being used on us. And then meditate and then pray and get into yourself, because we're stronger beings than we know. And they don't want us to know. So it becomes an inner quest to see what you can do to protect and take care of yourself, and then speak out, because you need numbers.
Thank God, Deborah, I just got John Knox's number, that the pounding on the pavement so that people wake up, because California is definitely a test site. This is going to spread across the country. They're not just going to stay in California. They will move to other states or republics. They're going to start. They're going to start this. I mean, unfortunately,
they already have. Colorado got hit. 2 years. Colorado's right next to the Air Force Base. There, got hit 2 different times. Same MO. What they showed there was they could go into any forest and hit any house. You're not safe. I mean, I thought I was safe moving outside a dirt road. They're telling you that you're not safe anywhere. They can hit you from anywhere. So you got nothing left to lose now, folks. And then the other thing too that's really important, Wendy, to bring up is this insurance scam. Nobody got paid for their insurance. I mean, if they did, it's not enough to rebuild out here in Santa Rosa a year and a half later. And they took everybody's insurance money. They strong-armed their sign over to FEMA. FEMA negotiated with the mortgage companies, and nobody could get enough money after the money was left to rebuild. So that properties aren't getting rebuilt on. And then they came out with this problem of benzene in the soil. And so they had people that were in escrow just trying to punt it at 1/3 of the cost of what it was worth the night before. They fell out of escrow because of the benzene in the soil. So they're in RVs now. And like you said, it's a mobile country now. I can't tell you how many people have called me. They're in RVs. And this poor gal, she's 30 years old. She's got a 1-year-old and a 5-year-old. And, she's trying to make it work in the RV because nobody understands her in the town she lives in. So she got an RV to get out of there. I mean, we got to reach out to each other now. Compassion and empathy is really, really important and once you understand, help others understand, because it can be really hard once you wake up. And it's really up to each one of us to support each other. Does that make sense?
I think also, too, that some of the states and republics are going to have to really elect some congressmen or some governors. You're going to have to elect people that aren't necessarily politicians at all, that are going to go in there for a couple of years just to fight, necessarily not on the federal level, but just on the state and local level.
Well, yeah, but where does your stuff come from? I mean, if you're running an international corporation that has PG&E power as one of its subsidiaries, who are you going to talk to? You write to your congressman is the best we can do as our representative. I mean, do the thought drill and say, if we didn't have this system, what would I create? I think you're going to come out with some really good answers about what you can do. We're the most wasteful country in the freaking world. We waste more than anybody else. Turn the waste into energy. My dear mother is 91. She started in 95 at 72 years old, starting this business called Image for Success, where she got donated clothes in Marin County up here. And then she got people that were out of the homeless shelters at Outward Reach, paid her $50 per person she got dressed to get job interviews. And so now she's got over 2,000 people they've clothed, men, women, and children. People donate clothes. They go in and shop in the retail store, and it pays for itself, all by donations, all by donations. So we have solutions. Mary Risley, San Francisco, Food Runners, she started back in 96, free food pick it up, drop it off. I was one of her second volunteers, and now she moves 22 tons of perishable food that would have gotten thrown out in San Francisco is now going to Larkin Street Youth Center, Haight-Ashbury Clinic. I mean, getting creative. We have examples, and we can do this one by one, but right now as things are happening, people can't afford to even think about helping others out because they're just trying to pay rent. The light bill's coming due. The car just happened. I wasn't ready for that one. And they're hawked into debt. So, there used to be a thing called debt jubilee. After 50 years, all debts went away. And the prime value of the loan would go down the longer it would, and people would have to live off their means. And this is what my grandfather and everybody used to do. It's called living off your means. You make it, you eat it, you live off it,
Yeah,
and
right.
You're 90% farmers, 90%, 44% farmers in 1900. Now they've gotten this less than 1% of farmers, and the average farmer is 58 years old. Where's your food come from? Nobody knows. So it gets back to our knitting, to coming back to earth, to getting back to grounding, to being thankful for what we have, and then being very awake and aware to understand that there is an entity that really doesn't want us here. It's not just California. That's just the example of just sheer, cultivate your common sense, folks. And that's what John Knox will bring you to. The house he showed that was lasered in half. Did you see that from the?
No, I didn't. Is that on YouTube or you got pictures of that?
Yeah,
where can people find that, Jamie? Where can they find that?
I can send it to you, but John, if you go on John Knox's channel, Fit at 50, you can see it on there. But he did just at 3.5 minutes. And he said, cultivate your common sense. And he says, how's this house be burned in half and the trampoline in the backyard is still fine, folks? And he just used one imagery, just like this imagery up in Paradise of this mobile park with like 32 mobile homes, completely torched, and there's a forest completely surrounding it on all four sides. How can that happen in just cultivating your common sense? And you don't need any more convincing that something's amiss, something's wrong, something's really going down, that we need to wake up fast. And then when we wake up, what can we do about it? Start somewhere, use what you got and do something. And then think about preparing. Think about when they're turning off the power up here, Wendy. I don't know if you're getting the notices down there, but they're preemptively turning off power if the winds get above 20 miles an hour. They're calling them red flag days. And they shut off a whole town of 12,000 people in Calistoga for 4 days, and they all lost their meats and their foods and everything. See what I'm saying? It's all about the power. And you were talking about the power. And I've gotten into this thing that Elon Musk stated that all the power is for our cars, Wi-Fi, for 5G. He's putting them up in space satellites called HAPS, high altitude platform sites that they're putting up all these lasers that are going to be directed energy weapons down for our homes, for our cars, for our 5G. That's what they're planning.
Did you hear too? I want to say this, that when The Hague about a week ago turned on their 5G, like 300 birds fell from the sky, right, and the ducks in the canal were swimming with their heads in the water.
Right, and we have many anomalies like that where things falling out of the sky, fishes being beached up on the shore, cows, remember the cow mutilation? I mean, they just are testing things until they know they got it perfectly 100% right, they're going to win. And then they'll start executing their plan. And so that's what we should call this stage 2 from the planning stage, which was prophesized by Albert Pike. Albert Pike's buried in the Scottish Rite Museum in Washington, D.C. He was an Arkansas Ku Klux Klan member. In 1886 or so, he wrote that 3 world wars would be fought. First one will be Russia, second one will be Germany, and third one will be against Israel and the Muslim nations, the all-out war to end all wars. And 9/11 was the first salvo of his prophecy way back in the 1880s. This is how long these guys plan this stuff. They're very, very powerful entities we're talking about, but they're done. Go ahead, take me out, but people are going to see you for who you are now. And that's where we're at right now. It's waking up to a very hard truth, but they're not hiding anymore. They can't hide anymore. So,
to me, they're up very much in the open. They just tell people what they're going to do.
Yeah. I mean, look at all the Family Guy and all the, 9/11, Bruce Willis with the Twin Towers in Los Angeles. It's called predictive programming. Robin Williams, the suicide of Robin Williams, predicted the day before, I think it was on Family Guy, hanging himself by a belt on a door, which is the story about, he lives in Marin here where I grew up, and that's what he said, he killed himself that way. I mean, it just goes on and on. They're just the jokers in the game of the kings and the queens. Hollywood's just the jokers. They don't have any
made
power. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. They made the movie Geo. It's called Geo. It's with the Gerald Butler and this other kid, and it's called Geostorm. And it really shows the laser and how they create the earthquakes and this and that. And when you watch it, you really understand that these guys are no longer playing games. They're doing destruction.
Well, and they put the movie out. When did that movie come out? That was in the winter, the beginning of winter in 2017, right between Hurricane Harvey and October fires here. They're telling you what they're doing. They're showing you first, hey, we're going to do it, and then they do it. We're people, and this is the old, this is the dark entities that says, do what thou willst. And if you're too stupid to understand, well, you deserve what you've got coming, because you don't want to see what we're doing, but we're telling you what we're doing. And that's their motto. That's what they live by.
Right. So it's a little frightening. Hey, what is John Knox's website, real quick, so people can go on it?
Fit at 50. No, I'm sorry. That's his email. Let me see on here what the site is to make sure. And he went to Tucson. I mean, he's another blessed soul. He was helping with the LA Skywatch.
I've had them on before many times. LASkywatch.org. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh yeah. Did you get the story about Chris Haskell?
I don't know if I did that or not. What happened?
Okay, so in Tucson, I kept getting people telling me, hey, look into Chris Haskell. He's being arrested. And Chris Haskell was a guy who was protesting geoengineering and putting up signs. He was a bus line guy, and he was putting up signs all over Tucson, Arizona about geoengineering. Look up, look up. And that's where they wanted to do the testing, or start the testing, so to speak, with the geoengineering guys, and also the mayor of Tucson, Rothschild. And he got so successful at it that they needed to do something. And so they came with helicopters, police dogs, and they just hunted him down, charged him with 6 felony counts. And they put white powder on one of the signs that he handmade and said it was his, and charged him with bioterrorism laws. They had SWAT team, they had FBI, bioterrorism. And then they later admitted, this being the FBI and the others in Tucson, that there was no substance that was bioterrorism in the white powder, but they kept charging him. So John Knox, bless him, he gets on his van and he drives out there, and he spends 2 months, getting Chris Haskell pleaded down to a misdemeanor, where he has to wear a tag for a year and get a job based on their approval. But he's out of the 6 felony counts because we raised like $8,000, $10,000, $15,000 to help him. And John Knox was the key going down there and keeping that story alive. So hats off to him. So John Knox. Just John Knox YouTube, you'll find it, or Fit at 50 on YouTube, and you'll find it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah, great. Wow. I'm so glad I've had you on the show, because it's just been a whirlwind experience to listen to a lot of different things, and that's always good. That's why I always have Deborah on at least once a month, if not twice, because she's just talking about so much information.
Yeah.
So I just So let me ask you this too. Wait. Is there any? Richard? Is there any from the chat room? Does anybody want to answer any questions from the chat room?
Not that I've seen so far.
Okay. All right. I just want to be safe. John, did you want to ask anything else? Are you okay?
Well, I'm okay. The information is just overwhelming, Jamie. I know Deborah shared much of what you've shared with us tonight on previous programs, and I don't think that it has been brought out by the news media that hardly anyone who was a victim of these fires will ever be able to rebuild on the same property. Why is it that our news media is not informing the Californians of this situation, or the Americans throughout our nation on this dilemma, whereby these disasters are so terrible that the insurance companies will not shell out to the amount that they should regarding it to be possible for people to rebuild their homes. This is just appalling. Just as is everything else about the thousands of people who are missing and were deliberately killed by these dastardly plans. It's just
and it's really important to understand here. We have documentation, excuse me, just coming out right now. Official: California must mull home ban in fire-prone areas. Washington Post. Who owns the Washington Post? Amazon, Jeff Bezos. So, sir, you got to get into who owns what. It's Blackstone that owns all the stocks, that owns PG&E. We got to go past this political conversation to a much deeper entity that owns all the stocks, that owns the corporations, that own the media, layer after layer after layer. So this is the Washington Post. Officials: California must mull home ban in fire-prone areas. And it's got a picture of Chief Ken Pimlott, California fire chief, and he's retiring. And after 30 years with the Associated Press interview, and I quote, he said, "Government and citizens must act differently to protect lives and property from fires that now routinely threaten large populations." So it's so unpredictable with the weather now, and that's why they're making a big deal about it traveling at 80 football fields a minute. They say the Paradise Fire travel, 80 100-yard football fields a minute, 237 miles per hour. They said this forest fire travel. So because it's a fire hazard, that's the story. That's on 60 Minutes, Wendy. That's their story. It's the
and no one's really questioning this. This isn't even logical.
Are you calling us no one?
Okay, well, I'm going to definitely have to check out the 60 Minutes episode. But I'll tell you something.
They announced it too, Wendy, in Malibu yesterday too. Malibu areas will not be allowed to be rebuilt in Malibu. Fire chief, you get it yet, folks?
Wow, they're definitely they went on it. I think oh God. Well, I got to tell you something. I think there going to be some people talking. Of course, obviously, mainstream media is in a complete. It's. I mean, I hate to say this, but the mainstream media is like the Reichstag right now. They don't say anything only when they want to. It's a lot of it is misinformation, and they're not talking about the real stories about what's going on, and it's very disheartening.
Get their information from the sources. That's where we all get our stories about what we know from the same sources. But this is the alternative shows like yourself, Deborah Tavares, God bless her. I mean, we're getting alternative narratives that are completely different from the same old story. I mean, if you look at Make America Great Again, folks, go Google the pin, the campaign pin for Reagan and Bush back in 84, whenever they were in there. Make America Great Again. They just rehash the same themes to people and call it new. It's just so pathetic that we don't see the bigger picture about this is all mind control. We can't give them our power away. We got to create our own energy now. And those systems that you write to your, it's not working. They're sacrificing our children. They're lying to us in teeth and wealthy, giving tax cuts to the super wealthy. And guess what? You're not in the club. So create
you're
your
not
own
in the club. You're never going to be in the club. No, you're never going to be in their club ever. I think it was George Carlin who said that.
Yeah, and this is something really important to understand too, is that all presidents have negative bloodlines, and they all dates back to the across the pond to England. Now, why do they all have negative bloodlines? Because that's how you can pass on your genetic code and identity. And so, what's the Georgia Guidestones talking about? Is they're talking about getting everybody down to the negative bloods. Sorry to say, truth be told. So that's the bloodlines they're passing on. And that's why they call them the blue bloods, because they have copper in their bloods, higher degree of copper. They're higher royalty than iron. That's the whole Yuga cycle, iron to bronze. So they're the elite, L light. You know, and then they got us using our language that we languish in because we're deaf with our definitions, and that's why we say hi. We say hello, hell. We cast spells in school. They call you insane when you're in your sanity. They call it injustice when you're in justice. They call you insecure when you're in your security. The words don't make any sense, folks. How you doing? We got to wake up.
I hear you.
Wake up.
I hear you. Yeah, it's going to be definitely a wake up for many people. I think, especially now that they've told people that they won't be able to rebuild, whether it's in Paradise, whether it's in parts of California now. There's it's going to be interesting. It's going to be an interesting mix right now, and definitely you're going to have to look to have your own water. You're going to have to look to make sure that you have your own power. And now you really, I hate to say this, but you might have to go to a couple of Tesla conferences and go on the web, do some research, and learn to grow food. And you're gonna have to really learn to just make sure that you're doing it, because the days of paying your bills or days of just trying to those days are over. It is right. You're going to live by your means. That's the thing.
But ironically, yeah. Wendy, the problem is the government is seemingly doing everything possible, or the corporations, so that you can no longer live in a rural area or even a suburban area where you could almost sustain yourself by having your own garden and having your own water and your own solar energy. They're moving us into these centralized, controlled areas, which we used to call ghettos, downtown areas, where we can be completely controlled, conveniently located, where we won't have to use an automobile. We can walk within the distance of the confined area, which becomes basically our prison. This is what's happening, and these fires are contributing to moving us into the city. I don't see where it's going to be possible for all of these people that have these lovely homes to move other than into a more congested, crowded city after losing so much. Or at least that's what seemingly seems to be the only alternative. When in reality, if we thought about it a little bit longer, we would probably come to the conclusion that if enough of us got organized, we could probably move to a rural area where we could sustain ourselves. But,
yeah, you're right, John, and the government is trying to stop us in every way. But I think now you're going to have to go to your neighbors and who's got orange trees, who doesn't, who can plant some food. Who's going to, you think, because it's now, you need to just be smart about it.
Yeah, but in the meantime, lasers are going to come down on our homes and destroy our houses. What we saw in Paradise, in all probability, is just the tip of the iceberg. I think we're going to see this on a much more massive scale. And Jamie, if I heard you correctly at the beginning of the program, you said keep a full tank of gas so you can get out in a hurry. There's time is a premium. It means the difference between life and death. It's an entirely different mindset, which I haven't quite been able to grasp. But your comments.
Yeah, I think unfortunately, this is. I'm going to recommend that people go watch the Geostorm with the Gerald Butler, just to show them this is what they really want to do to everybody. This isn't science fiction. This is reality now, and the fact that on 60 Minutes is even saying the fire traveled from 1 minute across a football field. I mean, that's come on.
Yeah, and just to bring it home too about this document, this is Admiral William Guy Carr. He was with Canadian Naval Intelligence, British Royal Army. He died in 1959. His son finished this book titled Satan, Prince of This World. And he wrote this book after he woke up. Someone put a Bible on his bed when he was injured. He read the Bible, and the prophecies of the Bible corresponded with what he had seen in the military intelligence. And just to read, just getting into what they predicted and what they're saying he found out in intelligence, the truth is made abundantly clear in the writings of both Adam Weishaupt and Albert Pike. Adam Weishaupt founded the Freemasonry on May 1st, 1776. You look at all your towns, all the Freemasons' towns, most Freemasons are founded 6 months before your state capital or your municipality, your city, or whatever. Look it up. Albert Pike. They say that the Luciferian conspiracy is finally imposed on what remains of the human race. The king despot will be served by a few millionaires, economists, and scientists. Remember, this was written in 1959, who have been proven to be devoted to the Luciferian cause, assisted by the sufficient soldiers and police, the United Nations International Police, to enforce the will of the dictator upon the masses or the Goyim. All the Goyim, without exception, are to be reduced to the state of human cattle by a process of integration on an international scale. After the human race has been turned into a vast conglomeration of humanity, breeding will be limited to the types and numbers sufficient to fill the requirements of the state. Artificial insemination will be used to accomplish this purpose. Less than something percent of the males, and 30% of the females will be selected and used for these breeding purposes. I said you can get it on PDF. Satan, Prince of this world.
I mean, the book is called the Satan's. The book is called the Satan Princes.
Satan, common, like the devil Satan.
Yeah.
Comma, Prince, like Prince the musician, of this world, by Admiral William Guy Carr, like Carr.
Okay. Okay.
And that's that. He talks about the 3 world wars, and that's what's helped me put into perspective how big a story what we're living through and experiencing and starting to understand the realm of what we're facing and what we're up against. Because until you know what you're up against, you can't really prepare and do battle with. You have to know what you're up against. So that's why we need to find out.
It's called Satan, Prince of the World?
Prince of this world. Satan, Prince of this world. Just put PDF and you'll see there's some PDFs up there. But it's not a hard read.
It's called by William Admiral Carr?
Yes, ma'am. And he's got 2 other books, Pawns in the Game, and read something about Russia, how he's telling about
Pawns in the Game,
Yeah. So that's all about Russia and us being partners and how we put Ford factories over in Gorski in Russia, and they built tanks and stuff to go against us in Vietnam. Because the corporations, they're not a government. They make sides on both sides of the war. They make sides on both sides. Coke, I mean, we changed their name to Fanta so they could sell Fanta sodas. At IBM, they gave the accounting machine. So the Agni-Nok fuel that kept the Messerschmitt flying in Germany was provided by Rockefeller at a Standard Oil of New Jersey. And then after the war, all the guys went down to Operation Paperclip through the Vatican rat lines down to Argentina, and they came up and started NASA. Werner von Braun, who rained V1, V2 buzz bomb over the Wunderkind, killing all allies in England and London and our people. He ran NASA, started NASA. He did all the Saturn rockets up there, and the other guy, and so it's all connected. They're all the same team. They're corporations. They're not government.
Have you seen Majestic 12 Above Top Secret?
Yes, that was a few years ago, right?
No, this just came out about a few months ago. It's called Majestic 12 Above Top Secret. You can get it online. It just costs you a few bucks. It's not too bad. But it's like the last 75, 80 years of the secret space program of Antarctica, what happened with Admiral Byrd, where the technology came through, Operation Paperclip, through the rat lines, absolutely.
Yeah, and then if you want to take that to the next level, my book, Geoengineering, a.k.a. Chemtrails, and Humanity's 6th Great Extinction Event, it's on PDF on my website for free. And what I list is the levels beyond that, the secret societies who run the world, the Council of 13, the Council of 33, Secret Chiefs, the Great White Lodge, Order of the Quest, Mothers of Darkness, Marai Conquering Wind, Supreme World Council, the Council of Committee of 300, the Old Black Nobility, the Bilderberg Group you've heard of, the Order of the Rosy Cross, the Order of Palladium, Skull and Bone Society you've heard of. I mean, I've got 38, 43 pages, 4 pages of names. The Order of the Merit Member, the Imperial Service Order, the Most Excellent Order, the Order of the Hospitalitors. I mean, this is the world society, how they organize. And then you've got the Knights of Malta and the Freemasons, Theodore Roosevelt, 33-degree Freemason, Howard Taft, Freemason, Harding, Freemason, Harry S. Truman, Eisenhower, Lyndon B. Johnson, Gerald Ford, Jimmy Carter, Ronald Reagan, George Bush, Bill Clinton. I mean, Tony Blair. They're all part of the club, and we're not in it. And these secret societies that nobody even brings to the attention that these are the powers behind the powers. And these are the Pat Buchanan, Knights of Malta, Joseph Kennedy, Knights of Malta. And the story about Joseph Kennedy, he was partners with Rockefeller because Henry Ford wanted to get the fuel from switchgrass and from hemp oil to drive cars cross country in his first Model A's in the 1920s when he started doing the online factories, and Rockefeller wanted to run on oil. So Rockefeller creates prohibition, tells it's a social story, and he creates prohibition.
Right.
And Joe Kennedy makes all the money running the bootlegs, and that's how the Kennedy family made their wealth, folks, by saying, well, we're denying you liquor, but it was just to keep alcohol away from Henry Ford and his cars.
That's correct. That's correct. That's correct, yeah. Hey, Jamie, you come back sometime on our program?
Anytime. It's great talking to you, Wendy. I appreciate it.
This has been a blast. Can you give out your website real quick, Handsome?
Sure. A Plain Truth. APLANE truth.info. YouTube and website.
Oh, God. Yeah, we're definitely going to have you back, Jamie. I thank you so much for being on our program tonight. This is the Granada Forum Radio program. This is Revolution. I want to thank my producer, Richard King.